Good morning, everybody. Looks like I've had a couple people log in already. Brian and Milky, thanks for joining. And if you would, good morning, everybody. Looks like if you would just quickly take a look and see if you were on yesterday. Would you please just confirm in the chat box that you both were logged in yesterday? Brian, I had you in as attending, but I didn't notice specifically if Milky had been on or not. So if you could just confirm that for me, I'd appreciate it. And we're going to go ahead and give it a few more minutes while we have other people log on. And we'll be right back. Welcome in, Allison. Thank you for joining. We're going to give it a couple of more minutes while we have some other properties log on. And just a reminder to anybody who's just joining in, for attendance purposes, just if you wouldn't mind typing your name and property in the comment box so I can make sure that I have everybody listed who's here today. And again, we're going to give it just a couple more minutes, probably until 5 or 7 past, to wait for everybody else to log on, and we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. Thank you again for being here. For those of you who've just joined, if you can please just type your name and your property in the comment box so that I can get your attendance. If you were able to log into YouTube to view this, of course, there will be no need for you to type your name because it will already be there. But please just go ahead into the comment box if you wouldn't mind and just share your name and property so I can take attendance. And we're going to give it just a couple more minutes and I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you did not yet fill out the questionnaire, which I believe all of you here have, but if you haven't yet filled out the questionnaire, the link is here at the top of the live chat box. So just go ahead and click into that and fill out that questionnaire. I'm going to try to address all of the questions that came through there. And then, of course, later on, you can also use the chat box to share any questions that way. So again, I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes and we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you again, all of you, for being here. All right, well, thank you all for coming in. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Today shouldn't take too long. I did make a quick change. Hold on, I'm going to share my face. So I did make a couple of changes to the agenda for today. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I made a couple of changes to the agenda for today. As you may or may not know, there are some major changes going on for IHG and Hilton Properties. It used to be that you would have Medallia for your internal reviews, and Medallia takes many forms. So for Marriott, that your internal Medallia is for your GSS. For Hilton, it's for SALT. And IHG uses a similar product in Merlin and Heartbeat for their internal surveys. So for Hilton and IHG, they're moving away from using Revinate for their online reviews, and those will all be rolled into their native systems. So whether it be Medallia for Hilton or Heartbeat and Merlin for IHG. So I've changed the structure of our training for today. So initially what I usually do is a Revinate overview first, and then we roll into accessing the reviews in the individual channels. In the interest of the time of our team members at IHG and Hilton Properties, I'm going to cover how to respond to reviews directly in platform first. So if any of you are not interested in learning about how to access reviews through Revinate and go through the sorting features there, you can step away from the training after we've gone through that section. unless you have any additional questions that we need to address. And of course, if you'd like to learn the tool, you're welcome to stay on through that portion of it as well. Today's training is really, the goal of today's training is so that you have a better understanding of how to tactically respond to reviews. So this means technically, not tactically, but technically respond. So how to be able to log into the platforms, how to actually be able to access those reviews in cases where you can dispute any. I'll show you where you can do that on those channels as well. But we'll cover it kind of in that sort of a way. So let me just take a quick look over. It doesn't look like anybody new who's joined. Welcome in Ebony and Deshayla, Philip and Allison and Milky and Brian and anybody else that I didn't see on the list yet, but thank you all for being here. Again, if you have to step off the training at any point, that's fine. This is recorded. Obviously this is live, but it will be recorded and immediately available using the same link you're using to access this training. So you can just go right back to that calendar invite, click into it, and it will live there as soon as this, this live recording is over. So again, if we didn't meet yesterday, my name is Emily Daly. I'm your Director of Digital Presence. I work with our revenue generation team, the directors of sales and marketing at the properties, and our VPs of operations, Scott and Joe, in administering the social media and reputation champion programs. So just a quick recap from what we covered tomorrow for those of you who missed. We just went over generally how to respond, or how this process works for our hotels. Not how to respond, but how this process works for the hotels. And we talked about the support that you'll be getting, which I want to focus on again. So in addition to this training, you have your executive member that will be able to support you. And then after this training is over, we will have, if you're already involved in the program, we'll have quarterly calls to review the performance of the hotel with your online reviews. And if you're new to the program, we'll have monthly calls for the first quarter, and then we'll roll out to quarterly calls after that. And that's to ensure that for those of you who don't have access to channels yet, that you get those and that you don't have any login issues over the next few months. And then we'll also be implementing concurrently, as soon as this training session is over, we'll implement our monthly reputation champion calls. So for those of you who are already social champions, you will be old hat at this game. You know how it works. We do a monthly call for all of the reputation champions. It is not mandatory. It's optional, but it's highly recommended. It's a great opportunity we'll do a training topic at the beginning, and then we'll have a round table at the end where you can share any successes that you've had, and then also any difficulties that you're experiencing or opportunities, because we have a lot more brain power in the portfolio as a whole than any one person does. So to be able to share your expertise among one another and be a resource for one another, I think is very important and beneficial. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We have just a few slides to get through, and then most of today is going to be live demonstration. I will check back in the chat box pretty regularly to make sure that I am addressing any questions or concerns that anybody's having. So please continue to use that live chat box if you have any questions that you need me to address, and I'll refer back to them. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and you should be able to see it in just a moment. Perfect. Okay, so I believe everybody can see my screen. If you guys just want to give me a little positive comment, yes, you can see the screen, and we'll go ahead and get going. Okay, so it looks like I can see it on my end, so that should be just fine. All right, so today we're going to go over just a few things. We'll do an overview of the response process on these platforms and the benefits of using either the channels individually or using an aggregator such as Medallia or Heartbeat or TrustYou or Revinate or any of those others. And then we're going to go into the demonstration of how to respond to reviews in each of those platforms. And then we'll step back and we'll take a look at how to respond to those reviews through Revinate. So again, if you have any questions over this period of time, please don't hesitate to share that in the chat box. Okay, so there are two major ways that you can respond to any review reviews, of course, the first one would be directly through those sites. And there are some great benefits to responding directly through the sites. They can each be assessed individually. And some of the sites, as an example, are TripAdvisor, Expedia, IHG, Marriott Verified Reviews, Twitter, Yelp, Hotels.com, Facebook. We won't cover social today, but we will cover all of the other review sites. So Yelp, Expedia, Partner Central, Booking.com, Google, and TripAdvisor. Again, IHG and Marriott Verified Reviews can be accessed either through Revenate or through your direct property site. But in order to have access to respond to those, all of that training is available for your brands. One of the major benefits of being able to access those reviews individually is that you can go through a bunch of them all at one time. So if TripAdvisor is an important channel for you, you can go to TripAdvisor and respond to all of those reviews in one go, and that's perfectly fine. The biggest downfall of having all of these sites, and I noticed that somebody requested a number of channels and wishing that they would be able to consolidate everything to a universal password. Unfortunately, that is outside of my realm of influence and outside of most of our spheres of influence. While all of these aggregator sites allow us to view reviews, they don't actually allow us to publish to those outside sites without logging into them first. And while it's frustrating, I can appreciate the importance of it from a security perspective. So what I do recommend, slightly counterintuitively, is to keep a list of all of your logins. There's a password matrix, a general password matrix. Please know that all of these passwords on here are old. But there's a general password matrix that I've created. I'll share the link for it after this training is over in the comment section. I'll add it to the event invite that we discussed, and you'll also get a follow-up email when all 3 of these trainings are over with all of the resources. So I'll share a password matrix with you. It is actually a Greenwood standard, a Greenwood practice, that if you have access to property sites, so let's say Booking.com, that you keep the login and password and submit that to your controller. So it is enforced at varying degrees at the individual properties, but regardless whether it's enforced or not, it's certainly beneficial for you to make sure that you don't lose access later. One of the other things you can do as a time-saving measure is to bookmark all of those pages on a particular browser. So as an example, when I was working at the Henry, most of the Marriott systems all archaically function through Internet Explorer. So for the review sites, I would keep all of those passwords, not all of those passwords, all of those logins and bookmarks saved on Firefox. So every time I opened up Firefox, all of my review tabs loaded, and I could just go in and take care of everything. So those are a couple of recommendations that I have for you. And again, one of the biggest benefits of being able to go through those review sites directly is that it saves you a little bit of time, because you don't have to go from the aggregator like Revenate to the review site, back to Revenate, back to the review site, back to Revenate, back to the review site. It allows you to just do them all in one go. Now, the benefit to utilizing a tool like Revenate or Medallia is that it allows you to sort for importance. So of all of the review sites, you know that your negative reviews are the most important ones for you to respond to. So those 1- and 2-star reviews. So that allows you to take all of those negative reviews and pull them all to the top so you can respond to them. It also allows you the opportunity to sort by channel. So you may have ones that are particularly important on TripAdvisor. Again, you could go to that site directly, but to be able to see where it stands in the overall hierarchy of your reviews is helpful. It allows you to plan out your day a little bit more. So using a tool, again, like Medallia or Revenate, allows you to see everything as a whole picture, see what sites you're doing particularly well on and what sites you may have some room for growth. So that's really all we have to go for our initial overview. So I'm going to slide back to my share screen. If there are any questions so far, please just type them into the chat box. Any questions so far? Not seeing any come through, but I'll give that just a moment. And I'm going to also share my screen now for Firefox so that we can go in and take a look at all of these review sites. So again, we're not going to start with Revinate. I'm going to go through the individual channels themselves first. It doesn't look like any questions have come in yet. So again, I'm not going to start out here on Revinate. We'll actually start with TripAdvisor. So I'm going to go through each of these sites individually. Bear with me just a moment. I want to make sure that I have all of the information handy for us. Okay. So starting with TripAdvisor, TripAdvisor is one of the platforms that is perhaps most important for our properties. The reason why review sites are really so important on the grand scale, it can seem really frustrating that you may have reviews coming in from strangers. You don't even know if they've actually stayed at your property, and those things can be really frustrating. But on the grander scheme, these websites create a lot of content, not just for our hotel, but for other hotels and restaurants. And what that means is that if somebody's searching for a hotel in your city, oftentimes these sites will come up before even your hotel site would. So this is oftentimes the face of your business. Even before people reach your website, in all likelihood, they may be hitting one of these review sites like TripAdvisor or Yelp, or even Expedia or Booking.com. Especially with those third-party sites like Expedia and Booking.com, if you have a listing on one of those sites, which most of our properties do, they pay for high placement on the search result pages. So people may see, even if they're looking for your hotel specifically, they may be seeing Expedia, Partner Central, or Booking.com sites come up at the very top, even before your hotel. So again, from an organic perspective, people are much more likely to find these sites first because there's so much content on them. Google and Bing reward them for it. And even from a paid perspective, Expedia, Partner Central, Booking.com, those OTAs, they pay for placement in search results. So these sites can oftentimes be the first place that people are seeing. So I'm going to just go through when you would use this URL here. I'm actually going to paste this over into the chat box quickly so that you all have it if you need it. So you should get that in just a moment. So you would take the, you can take the TripAdvisor login, tripadvisor.com/owners. And in order to gain access to a listing, there's a process for that. Most of the other sites, I will be able to provide login access for you. But for TripAdvisor, you'll need to create your own account and request access to the business yourself. There is a guide for how to do that. So for those of you who indicated that you don't have access to TripAdvisor yet, I will email you that guide for how to do it. And if you have any difficulty over the course of that time while you're going through that process, please do not hesitate to reach out and let me know. But once you get access to your business, you'll start out here on this page and it'll say manage your TripAdvisor listings. Now, if you only manage one TripAdvisor listing, lucky you, it will be the only business that will appear on the page. Now, I do recommend that you have access to the hotel and the restaurant site for TripAdvisor, Yelp, and Google. If you don't and you need some help with that, please let me know. But I do recommend having both the hotel and the restaurant. The aggregate sites like Medallia and Revinate only pull reviews for the hotel. They don't pull reviews for the restaurant. So we focus more heavily on the hotel reviews, but the restaurant reviews are equally important, especially if you are driving a lot of local business to the restaurant and it's not dependent on who's staying at the hotel. Okay, so again, to get into the listing, you would just click in, and I'm just going to choose the Hilton Chicago Oaklawn. This brings you to your dashboard page, and then you have the option right here up at the top in reviews to respond to reviews. So it's very simple. All of those, unfortunately, they had a negative one that just came through, but you'll be able to see all of the reviews and you'll be able to respond right here. So again, your review appears up here on the top, and you have your response window right down here. So you would select your business role. One other time-saving tip, this is really annoying to do. So I'm actually, let me just show you really quickly. I'm going to do a quick change in the screen that I'm sharing. Okay. So I keep a list of all of my login info or all of the properties that I respond to right here. So I just keep my title here on a sticky note on my desktop, and that gives me the opportunity to just paste it really quickly as I'm going through. And the same is so in my responses. I would just be able to go in here. If it's a negative review, I share my entire bit of information, including my email and my phone number. And if it is a positive review, I just share, or if it's a positive review or it's a third-party site, I only share my sign-off, my name, my title, and the property that I'm working for. Okay. So that is how you would respond to a review on TripAdvisor. So again, I'm just going to go through it really slowly. Once you get into your listing, you would select reviews and respond to reviews, and it brings you to the response dashboard. Again, you can use sticky notes in order to be able to keep this information handy for you. And then if you ever had a negative review that came through TripAdvisor and you needed to dispute it, once you're in your dashboard, you're going to use the same drop-down menu. And instead of selecting respond to review, you're going to click report a review. Now, I want to be explicitly clear about when you are trying to dispute a review. If somebody has called your hotel or walked into your lobby and walked out, or walked by your hotel, or had any experience even with a reservation agent that's not based on your property, let's say they spoke to Central Reservations, whatever their experience was, the TripAdvisor review guidelines allow for that person to respond to or to leave a review for your business. So remember that every single experience that a guest has with you, whether it be a phone call, whether it be Central Reservations, any of those are experiences that they've had with your business. So just because they never stayed overnight doesn't mean that they can't leave a review. Alternately, if they had a review and there was incorrect information in it, if it wasn't anything like they were staying at the wrong hotel and they left a review, like if they said, oh, they had a beautiful pool and you don't have a pool and you think they might have left a review for the wrong property, if they had a false piece of information or a misunderstanding, there's no sense in removing that review. And two main reasons why. First, it counts kind of against you if you are responding or pulling reviews all of the time. It doesn't go against TripAdvisor guidelines for somebody to be mistaken is really the primary thing. It doesn't go against TripAdvisor guidelines for somebody to be mistaken, for them to outright lie, or for them to be leaving a review for the wrong property. That's one thing entirely. But if they have an element of their review that's mistaken, that's not against their guidelines. And the second is that if this guest misunderstood something, who's to say that other potential guests wouldn't misunderstand that as well? So in cases like that, in cases of a very negative review, or in cases of somebody who's posted misinformation, the best thing that you can do is to leave an appropriate response, which we'll talk about tomorrow. Leave an appropriate response that addresses their concern or corrects their misinformation, not just for that guest, but for every other guest that would potentially see that review. If you remember from yesterday, 68% of people will count a management response, an appropriate management response, as important. So it's really important to make sure that we're responding to reviews appropriately, as opposed to just trying to cover up all the negative ones. But in the event that you have something where somebody, let's say they said, they called a front desk agent by their full name and said that they were, I don't know, hateful or something like that, you have the opportunity, or they said something like they were doing drugs or they were drinking, which may or may not be true. It doesn't particularly matter, but it's blasphemous, effectively, for them to say something about an individual very specifically like that. And it could be detrimental to the security of your staff member because, of course, their first and last name and where they work is personally identifiable information. So in cases like that, it would go against the terms and guidelines of TripAdvisor's reviews. So you would just type in your property owner name, the name of the property that you want to pull the review for, and then the specific review, the reason why you want to do that. So again, for this, the reason why you're reaching out to them is to report fraud or have review concerns. And then you'll be able to say that the review is suspicious, posted to the wrong location, or violates guidelines. So again, violates guidelines, review is suspicious, or review is posted to the wrong site. So let's say the review is suspicious. I'm going to select the reason. If it was written by an employee or competitor, or you want to report something else, whatever the reason is, and then you select the specific review. So you have the opportunity to leave some comments here and submit that information. So again, very, very self-explanatory. The review guidelines are also here. If you wanted to view them, you would just be able to click the link to review the guidelines. And it gives you the specific information: family-friendly, relevant to travelers, unbiased, helpful and firsthand, recent, original, non-commercial, respectful of private information, listed by TripAdvisor, and easy to read. Okay, so again, I'm going to go back to that really quickly. So now that we've gone through that process, again, the two places that you want to look at when you're coming into TripAdvisor are respond to reviews and report a review. You can also do Review Express. That it's supposed to be for guests to be able to leave more reviews with less effort, but generally the places you'll need to go are respond to reviews and report a review. Okay, are there any questions about TripAdvisor before we move on? I'm going to take a look at the chat and just see really quickly if there are any additional questions that have come in. Okay, so I'm not seeing any questions come in for TripAdvisor. If you do have anything that comes up, please don't hesitate to leave that in the chat box. Okay, so onwards, we're going to go over to Yelp. Again, these review sites are most important because for TripAdvisor and Yelp especially, they have so much user-generated content, and they have content coming in from all over the world. So oftentimes these will appear sometimes even ahead of your hotel's website because they have so much user-generated content, and they get rewarded for that. So for Yelp, if you don't have access to your business listing, please reach out to me and let me know. I know some of you are missing Yelp. The process for gaining access to a Yelp listing is different than TripAdvisor. It's much more difficult especially if you've gone through transition from one person to another, or one management company to another, and you have somebody that has left your property. The difficult thing about it is that if somebody still claimed the listing and they've logged into the account, you can't pull it right away. It's trickier to do. So this is one where you want to make sure that you are keeping that the email address you use and the login handy. One important thing of note with Yelp is that in order to respond to reviews, you actually have to have your picture listed. So you'll create an account and you need to have a headshot there. So please, as you would with anything else pertaining to the business, please make sure that it's professional. It should be a headshot, shouldn't be a bar shot, shouldn't be a weird selfie. You want to make sure that it's as professional a photo as you have, so that you can respond on behalf of the business in a professional manner. So again, if you, let's assume you've claimed the listing, we've gotten through that process. Responding to reviews is relatively easy. If you have one business, again, lucky you, it's just going to appear on your main page. I'm going to use the Radisson for this one as my example. So it gives you all of your business information here. You wind up on your dashboard. There's a review tab here on the left-hand side. So I'm going to select reviews, and it'll allow me to go into these reviews directly. So this is actually a couple-step process, so pay close attention to this. In order to add so you can do two things. You can add a public comment and you can send a direct message. Now, Yelp makes specific recommendations about the public comments that you leave and the private messages that you send. In the case of a negative review, again, in the public comment, you want to apologize for what happened and correct any misinformation that the guest may have communicated to potential other travelers. But if you're offering something like compensation, I know somebody had mentioned that during the training yesterday about not knowing how much you should share publicly. You can add a public comment because that's going to benefit all of the other customers and guests that you have coming in. But if you want to offer compensation, it's a good idea on Yelp here. They do a really good job of making it easy for you to send a message specifically to that Yelp user. So if somebody had not a great stay, you would post publicly apologizing and asking them to reach out to you. And then privately you can say, we're so sorry that happened. We'd like to take care of your bill or welcome you back in the future. Please reach out to us for more information. And again, that will show as coming from you, the business manager. So there's no generic account for this one. It has to be your name. It has to be your face. If you're working on behalf of your general manager and they want their name and face, that's fine. Just recognize that it's a sticky place to put yourself in because they are now being held accountable for the words that you have written on their behalf. So I do recommend that it comes directly from you. As long as you have the empowerment, training, autonomy to be able to respond, then you are golden, no problems at all. So if I'm adding a public comment, this is a two-step process. I'm going to go through this process. And this is really important. So once you've left your public comment, you hit preview, you're not done. Again, it's just preview. And you would then need to post your comment after that. So again, this is really important. When you're responding on Yelp, it's a two-step process to post a public comment. You have a preview step, and then you have to actually post it. So please make sure that, especially if you're responding to a negative review, you want to make sure that you preview and then post. So preview and post. So again, we go to the reviews tab, add a public comment, type your comment, I guess I'm not doing test, so I'll do tasty. Preview, and then you would post it, or you can edit it. And again, if you have any questions at this point, please go ahead and add them into the chat box. I'm going to go ahead and show you also how you can flag a review. With direct message, so public comment, if you're sending a direct message, it brings you to the messengers portion of your page. You have the opportunity here to send them a message directly. The nice thing about that is that if they're a regular Yelp user, they'll get a notification on their app and they'll likely get an email notification. So you may not have their specific contact information, but it's gonna reach them in multiple ways generally. And so with this one, you would just be able to send it. There's no previewing. Okay, so back to reviews. If there's a negative review and you need to report it, you would select report this review, and then you can select why. So false information posted by someone affiliated with the business, competitor, ex-employee, violates privacy standards, contains promotional material, or is for the wrong business. So whatever it is, you can give specific details and then report that. Okay, so again, from the reviews from your main business listing, in the reviews tab, right here in line with everything, you have the option to add a public comment, send a direct message, or flag the review. And you'll notice here that any ones that have already been responded to will show the response box here. And that's the same in TripAdvisor. So if you have multiple people, let me go back a little ways. Okay, so this is an example of what it would look like on TripAdvisor when the response has already been posted. So just so that you feel comfortable, if you have multiple people responding to reviews, there's not that much of an opportunity for a duplication of efforts on TripAdvisor or Yelp, because you would be able to see the responses that have already been posted there. Now, the nice thing is that also it takes a little bit of time for those reviews to get published, actually. They get reviewed before they're published, so it will still appear here. Even if, let's say, Philip has posted a review and it hasn't been posted to the site yet and I need to go respond to some, it's still going to appear here that the response has been submitted, at least. Okay, I'm going to go back to our chat box and see if there have been any questions coming in. Doesn't look like so far. Doesn't look like so far, so we will continue on. So next we're going to go through, I'm actually going to go to Google My Business before I go to the Expedia Partner Central pages. So Google is another one similar to the other review sites that I'll need to give you access to. It can be a little bit tricky. Oftentimes these Google My Business listings are actually managed by our brands. So the management in Marriott, it's managed by their Maps team. With IHG, it's managed by, I don't know, some e-commerce person in a distant galaxy far, far away that's very hard to get a hold of. And in Hilton, it's by the, again, your e-commerce edge team representatives. They'll be able to put you in touch with the person who would be able to give you access to the account. So again, ultimately, I'll help you go through the process of gaining access to these listings. The nice thing about Google, because it's so difficult to get access to these listings, we only want to have to do it once. So with Google, what we generally do is we'll create a generic login for this platform. You can't do it for TripAdvisor, you can't do it for Radisson, you can't do it for, you can't do it for TripAdvisor or Yelp or Expedia or Booking.com, but you can do it here for Google. So that's generally what I recommend doing, is creating a generic login. So generally what I'll do is use, most of your properties will have a social media email account set up. It's just a generic email that's used exclusively for creating logins for sites like this and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that fun stuff. So generally, if you've already got a generic login or a generic email address, I'll just give that email address access to the business, and you'll be able to go in, check the email, and gain access to the account. So I have my locations here. Google My Business can be a little bit tricky. If you have a personal Gmail account and a business Gmail account that are all logged in at the same time, this process can change. If you ever need to switch accounts, if it has you logged into the wrong one, it's in the top right corner, and you would just select the account you need to go to. So you want to make sure as well that once somebody has sent you access to the listing, that you want to make sure that you're logging into the correct account, because it can be tricky to accidentally, if I get emailed at my business listing or at my business email account and accidentally log into my personal Gmail or Google account, I now have given that access over to my personal account when I didn't intend to. So it can start that whole process all over again. Okay, so once you're in your location section, again, if you have just one business, lucky you, you'll use the little drop-down menu here on the right-hand side, and you have a Reviews tab. So once you go into Reviews, it gives you the option to view and reply, and you can do that right in line. So again, you'll notice that it changed from my personal account over to the Renaissance account here for the Renaissance Allentown, and that will continue to happen. So again, it's just one generic business listing, And even though you're logging in under your account, it's going to show that the review is posted by the business, or the response was posted by the business, which is perfect. So with any of these, you want to make sure that you're including your name in the responses, so that people know that it's coming from that particular person, and that if they later need to contact the hotel, they know who to reach out to. But again, very simple process for responding to those reviews, and it will appear right in line. Don't know if there are any in here that have been responded to. Let me take a look and see if I can pull it up for another property. Let's see how, who usually does. Usually the Crowne Plaza is really good at these, so let me see if they have any. Okay, so this shows you what it will look like if they've already responded. It shows view and edit response. So as opposed to view and reply, you have view and edit response. So again, it goes in as a generic login, so you want to make sure that you include your name. So Joe, the general manager at that property, responds to all of their reviews. So his name is there, his signature is there. Any questions so far? I'm not seeing any come in. Okay, so that covers TripAdvisor, Yelp, and Google My Business. With these, if you have a review that needs to be, let me just see if I have any in here. If you have a review that needs to be disputed, you actually would generally need to flag it as flag it from a public account. So you wouldn't go through your review dashboard to do that. You would do it directly through the business's page. So let me see if I can show you what that would look like. So if I have Hyatt Place Nashville, I want to look at the business itself. Yeah, it's not giving me the access here. Let's take a look and see if it gives. Okay, so this is where it would be, and you can access these review information from anywhere within the Google Maps platform, because that's where they're posted. So you would need to actually go into the reviews and you would flag it here. So it gives you the option to flag the review. You can say why you're flagging it, but you need to do that from a public account. So again, with TripAdvisor, it's right at the top there. You go through the form of flagging a review for removal. And Yelp, it's right in line with the review response platform you're already in. With Google, you'll actually need to go over to the public side and see the reviews from the public side in order to be able to flag them. Okay, so that covers, again, TripAdvisor, Yelp, and Google. And I'm going to go over to Expedia Partner Central now. I don't see any questions in yet, but again, please let me know if any come up over the course of this period of time. I saw that somebody had commented that Expedia Partner Central is very limiting, and it is. So I'll show you what I mean by that. With these third-party sites, so with the public sites, you're allowed to include your contact information. So on TripAdvisor, Yelp, or Google, if somebody mentions anything about the rate that they booked or the reservations process or a particular staff member, or they just didn't have a great stay, you have the opportunity to include your contact information and ask them to reach out to you. When you're using these third-party sites, Expedia, Partner Central, or Booking.com, it does not allow you to respond with anything about the rate or your contact information or asking somebody to contact you, because the mentality behind that is that that they're not essentially your customer, that they're a customer of Expedia or Booking.com. So you're not supposed to be taking that customer from Expedia or Booking.com. So if you ask them to reach out to you directly, you're not allowed to do that. The only thing that you're really allowed to do is respond as best you can without saying explicitly anything about the rate or how they should book next time, or asking them to reach out to you directly. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. Expedia Partner Central is an aggregator for a lot of review sites. So while we don't have while we don't have one universal password for all of the places in the world that there are reviews, Expedia Partner Central includes Expedia, Hotels.com, Travelocity, really any of those outside review sites except for Booking.com, which is its own. So again, great opportunity there. So what I'm going to do is in the drop-down menu right up at the top here in property information, there's guest reviews. And it's going to give me, oh, let's take a look. Yeah, so this one, this property, of course, because they're very on top of it, doesn't have any reviews awaiting responses. So if I select all reviews, I'll be able to do that. And as you can see here, I can sort through Expedia, Hotels.com, Travelocity, Orbitz. This is helpful if you see a review on Medallia or Revenate and you're having trouble finding it. This is a little kind of shortcut for you to be able to tag that specific review. Okay, so all reviews again. When a comment from the team comes through, it'll appear here in line. So if you have no reviews to respond to or no current reviews to respond to, it's just going to show any old reviews that haven't been responded to yet. But obviously they're completely up to date. So I need to go find another property then because they're way too on top of it. Way to go, Cleveland. Okay, so I have the opportunity here. Great hotel close to the airport, nice to see. 5 out of 5, and then I can respond here. So the response appears a little bit differently depending on the site. So with Expedia, I'll put in my response and my nickname. You can just put your first name, the first initial of your last name. That's just fine, and then submit it. And again, it gives you writing guidelines here. Don't include contact information. Don't encourage customers to book directly. No email addresses, no nothing like that. So don't ask them to reach out to you, nothing like that. And the same is so for Booking.com. So this is what it looks like with Expedia. I just want to show you a few of the other sites because it does change a little bit. If I am responding to a review from Hotels.com, which again, you can see Expedia, and then I can see Hotels.com. So if I'm responding here, it gives me a little bit of a different process. The pop-up window appears for me to write my comment and my email address and then submit it. And you'll see that the writing guidelines for this one are a little bit more specific. Don't refer to other hotels. Don't ask a customer to contact you. Don't include full name. Limit your response to 300 words. Maintain a professional tone. Focus on specifics. This is actually a really good point that they have in here, which we don't ever really want to do anyway, but they don't post general responses for multiple reviews, so blanket or global responses don't work. So if you're using a template, we always want to make sure that we're personalizing it and customizing it somehow based on the guest's feedback. So this is a good example of that. It's going to help you in your relationship with Expedia. Partner Central, because they don't like those templated responses anyway. So just make sure that you're personalizing it however you can. If you're just copying and pasting, copy, paste, post, copy, paste, post, copy, paste, post, it's not going to work. They will flag them and pull them from you. Okay, so that goes over Expedia Partner Central. It's pretty easy. Again, this is another property, the DoubleTree in Charlottesville, that only has 6 reviews left to be responded to. They're doing a really great job of keeping up to date on everything. And you'll notice that a couple of the ones down here don't have any comments. It's just a star rating. And we'll talk tomorrow a little bit more about that, about whether you should or shouldn't respond if there's no no comments posted. Now, the difficulty with this is that you're really limited in being able to flag these because, again, they're coming through Expedia Partner Central and Booking.com. So these are verified travelers. They've actually stayed at your property. They actually have charges to the room or charges they've actually paid for the room. So on the plus side, you know that it's somebody who's actually stayed at your property. On the downside, you don't really have tons of control over whether you can flag these or not. If you needed to, you would need to reach out to Expedia Partner Central and they will make the determination. So in order to do that, pretty sure it's through the comments section. Contact Expedia. It appears on the bottom. So you would be able to contact us. You also have this guest reviews tab here, so you can see if you needed to take care of anything. Any of the general information is here, but contact us on the bottom. So again, at the bottom of the page, you have the Contact Us tab for Expedia Partner Central. It brings you over to this listing, this section. Okay, so with Booking.com, any questions so far? Yeah, Philip, you were the person who commented about Expedia. Yeah, it's really tough, especially when you get a lot of those reviews. Okay, so we're going to go through Booking.com quickly, and then I'll show you very briefly how to get in through Revinate to these reviews. It's very simple to do. It's really just an aggregator. For those of you who would like more training on Revinate, we will do a separate Revinate training down the line because there's so much uncertainty with IHG and Hilton stepping away from those. I didn't make it as large a part of this training as I usually do. Okay, so with Booking.com, again, once you log in, if you have one property, it's just going to appear there. But if you are like me and you have all of the hotels, then it'll be a little bit different. So they actually just changed the way that this populated not too long ago. They have a new user interface, which makes it nice and easy because now you have this really nice sidebar here for guest reviews. So you just click into those guest reviews. It's going to give you all of this nice information here, and then you can just click reply. You paste your reply, or you take care of your reply here, you send it, and it just will populate there saying that a response was sent. With Expedia Partner Central, for some of the sites, you just need to be mindful that when you submit the response, and for Booking, it can take a few days for them to review your response and actually publish it. So it may take a few days. So if you are stepping away from those reviews and then going back into the channel later, just take note of the last review that you did so that you don't try and duplicate your efforts and accidentally send multiple responses, because then it will take even longer for them to get approved. So again, with Expedia Partner Central, when you leave a response, it'll initially show you that a response was submitted. But if you navigate away from the page and then come back, some of those will go away and you won't be able to see them. Booking.com will always appear there, but nonetheless, it can still take a number of days for these to get posted. So again, you have the response box here. It'll appear right in line. So you're going to use guest reviews and then respond right in line. And then if you needed to submit one of these reviews for removal for whatever reason, and again, I don't see why you would need to very often, because these are verified users. So again, these are verified users, so it's not like there's ever going to be something that's super false. They've actually stayed at your property. But if you ever needed to, you would use the messaging center to be able to do that. So here from the inbox tab, you would compose a new message, select the subject, and you'd use the booking reference number from the review in order to reach out to them. So if I go back to guest reviews, just so we can take a look together, if I go back to guest reviews, the reservation number right here is what I would use. So I'm going to take this, go to inbox, compose a new message. I'm going to do it about reviews. I'll use the booking reference number, and then I can leave my message here and submit it. Okay, so that goes over TripAdvisor, Yelp, Booking.com, I'm sorry, Google, Expedia Partner Central, and Booking.com. That is about it for those review sites. Are there any other questions? I know we're just at noontime, so for those of you who need to pop off the call or don't want to see Revinate, you can go ahead and do that now. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and move on to Revinate quickly so that you can see what that looks like. So I believe, Ebony, you'll be heading out, but if you'd like to stay, that's wonderful. I don't see any questions coming in so far, but please don't hesitate to let me know if there are any. Okay. So again, just going to go quickly in here so we can take a look at what it looks like to respond through Revinate. It brings you into your dashboard itself. So we're going to use the reputation tab up at the top and click into reviews, and I'm going to select all reviews. So I'm in the Crowne Plaza, so we'll see a lot of them that have already been responded to. But basically what you would do is you can use this top section here to sort however you'd like to. So let's say, as an example, I need ones that aren't responded to. I don't think there are going to be any of them. Yeah, very few. So I need ones that are not responded to. And let's say I wanted to get any of my negative reviews. So all channels is fine, but I want my negative reviews. So you can do positive, neutral, negative, or by a specific star rating. So I'm just going to choose negative reviews. And you'll see there's one negative review that came through. So I would be able to reply here. And again, it's going to bring me to the booking.com page for me to log in, that same place I was at before. And then the other important thing is when you're closing out a review through Revinate, especially if you're using this as a collaborative tool with other reputation champions, you want to make sure that you go through the additional step once you've submitted the review of using the response assistant that pops up to confirm that you have responded to the review. So again, regardless of where I come from Revinate, and I'm going to do all reviews. So I can go to another site so we can take a look at this as well. So I'm going to do hotels because that comes through Expedia. So again, my response assistant appears here in line with my reviews. So once I've responded to that review, and you can navigate the same way you normally would. So once I've responded to that review, I'm going to want to confirm that I've actually responded, and then it'll bring me back to Revinate, and you'll see this same thing that we saw for these other reviews, that the review has been responded to. So this is about as close as we get to a universal login. All of your reviews will appear here in the same way that they would when IHG and Hilton do their conversion over to Medallia. All of those reviews will appear in that one platform, and you can go out to those other places and respond. This is the one place to kind of keep them all together so you know where you need to go, what you need to respond to, and how you're performing. Are there any questions about Revinate so far? So Allison asked where you can find the master list of passwords to the individual sites. I will share the link to that, Allison. That is your the login matrix. If you have a generic login for the property, like as is the case for Google Plus or Google My Business, I will provide that to you. All of the other sites have individual logins. So Allison, you would need to have your own login for TripAdvisor, Yelp, Expedia, and Booking.com. But just I recommend keeping them in one place in that Excel spreadsheet. So I'll send that along with the minutes from today. Any other questions so far? We're just about getting to the end. I don't see any coming through. So again, just to recap, I'm going to go ahead and share that. Actually, I guess I don't really need to. Oh, I will. I'm going to share the last little bit. So we went through our guided tour. And now somebody told me yesterday that the tree with the question marks on it was like horrifying. So I changed the visual here. But if there are any questions, please just let me know. I'm happy to address them. Okay, so Allison, for Yelp, I'll need to provide you login access to that. I just had a difficult conversation with Yelp about that because the old ownership company had claimed those listings and now it's not allowing me to reclaim them. So we have to work a little bit more with your property on Yelp. But for Booking.com, if you don't already have a login for that, for any of the hotels down there, I can go ahead and add one for you. But if you do already have a Booking.com login, let's say for Renaissance, and you need it for Watermark as well, I can just add it to your login. So if you just want to send me a note and let me know more specifically if there's a particular one that you're looking for, I can go ahead and take care of that for you. Okay, any other questions so far? I don't see any others coming in. Okay, so should you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. As I mentioned, we do have another training tomorrow at the same time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's the same link. So it'll bring you to the same place where you'll be able to gain access to that training. I'm just checking my email to make sure that there are no other questions that came in. I see that Erin was on the call, so thank you for that, Erin. I appreciate that. And I see that Madeline's here, so thank you for that. I'm sorry that you're having trouble getting in. Okay, and thank you, Adam, as well, for mentioning that you were on the call. I'm sorry, it looks like there were some difficulty for some of you getting into the training today. So again, we have training again tomorrow at 11 a.m. These are all recorded, so if you had trouble logging in or gaining access, that's certainly fine. It will be live immediately after, or available immediately after the training is over. So if you have any other questions, comments, thoughts, or reflections, please don't hesitate to reach out to me via email or give me a quick ring. I'm always available, almost always available. But give me a call if you need anything at all, or reach out and let me know. Otherwise, thank you all for taking the time to be here today. If you would like an additional Revinate training, I know that some of you had mentioned that you're not comfortable using it, so we'll schedule that after this packet of 3 trainings is over. And otherwise, enjoy today. Thank you all for being here.